Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. And here is a set of discs that'll really cheer you up because I was really down, I did Theodore Kerensis's dismal Beethoven 7th, and then that grotesque transcription by Gerd Schaller of Bruckner 9th on the organ. I was really down, and I figured just the thing to perk me up after that would be the Requiem box. 16 discs of death. I mean, compared to that stuff, this is just a laugh riot. It really is. It's hysterical. And there's all kinds of cool stuff in this box. This is on Brilliant Classics, and we're going to go through it one deadly disc at a time with samples. Death samples. This is really fun. I mean, Brilliant Classics has these sacred music boxes. We did the Te Deum box, remember that? And there's also, as if Requiem, if this is too cheerful, then there's also the Stabat Mater box, which we'll cover in a future talk, because what could be more exciting than that one? Ooh, boy, Mary weeping at the foot of the cross. That's a charmer, if ever there was one. But the Requiem box, it's really got an amazing variety of stuff in it and some rather cool performances back from the grave, as it were, having been licensed to Brilliant Classics, along with original material. So let's start. You get a booklet. It's all about death. It's all about requiems. Bernard Shaw always wrote about requiems very amusingly. He hated the Brahms German requiem. He said it was only suitable for a corpse. He hated it. He detested it. He thought that composers who wrote requiems were death-obsessed and kind of insane and gloomy and miserable. And he couldn't imagine why any sane person would want to go hear a requiem. And I kind of, one can understand the perspective. But let's see what's in here, and maybe this will shed some shade on that particular position. First, Disc 1, Gregorian Hymns of Death and Resurrection. Well, it's Gregorian. I don't really know how you tell apart the death ones from the resurrection ones, because they all basically sound equally Gregorian. This is something actually which is kind of true of music throughout the Middle Ages and Renaissance periods, when you're dealing with sacred music anyway. I mean, it gets more polyphonic and a mode changes here or there, but more or less it sounds quite similar. And let's see, who's doing this? The Schola Cantorum Carolus Magnus under Stan Hollart. And it's quite good. It's good singing. Beautiful performances. If you want some dead Gregorian stuff, there you go. Disc 1. Disc 2. Johannes Ockeghem, his Requiem, the earliest polyphonic Requiem I think that's come down to us, which is fascinating. And Henry Purcell's Funeral Sentences for Queen Mary, another classic of its genre. And it starts with a funeral march. Ooh, baby, a funeral march. And this is fascinating because the ensemble is the the Baroque Brass of London and the choir of Clare College, Cambridge. And this was recorded back in the 70s. And one of the violinists is Andrew Mancy. Back when he was a toddler, he was on this disc, which is kind of cool, don't you? And it's really fascinating given where his career has gone since. I mean, now he's conducting Brahms. He's come a long way, baby, from doing dead requiems by Renaissance people. So there's that, Purcell's Funeral Sentences. And then we get an entire disc of lamentations, mostly the Lamentations of Jeremiah, but you've got Palestrina, you get Allegri's Miserere, and you get a bunch of English people no one's ever heard of. And, Robert Ramsey, what year was he? Well, they don't know. And Thomas Wilkes and Thomas Tallis, his Lamentations, and Thomas Louis de Victoria, and Josquin, the Déploration sur la mort d'Ockeghem, the lament on the death of Ockeghem, who wrote the Requiem, and then they wrote a Requiem about his Requiem. It's very Requiem-ish. And we have Carlo Gesualdo. Oh, fabulous sadomasochistic murderer psycho. It's great stuff. And more Josquin and William Byrd and Thomas Tompkins and George, who's this guy? Kirby. Cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. And this is, again, the choir of Clare College, which is a good group. Under Timothy Brown? Yeah, that's who it is. Now, what's this one? 17th century funeral music. Now, the 17th century is where things really started to get kinky because you had the Counter-Reformation and all kinds of juicy religious wars and things going on. And that, of course, had its effect. And we get Heinrich Schütz from his Musikalische Exequien, his funeral music stuff. I'm really puzzled about this number. Listen to this. This is called Nacket bin ich von Mutterleibe kommen. Nacket bin ich von Mutterleibe kommen. I said it twice because you didn't hear it wrong. And I don't think I said it wrong. It kind of means, as far as I can tell, naked I come before the mother's body, or something like that. Naked I stand before the body of the mother. I mean, it's very, very kinky. But as with all the more pornographic and kinky things from this period, it sounds like the normal stuff. That's how they got away with it. I'm telling you, that's how they did it. I mean, there are all kinds of weird things. I mean, there's like one here. Wait a minute, let me go back here that I know from the CD1, which is called Media Vita, by the way. In the midst of life, we are in death. See, they got a piece here called Placebo Domino. Now, Placebo Domino, I mean, what the heck is that? That can only be about some sort of drug experiment run by a sugar company. But you wouldn't know that. It sounds like just a piece of sacred music. So there you go. So we get that. And I want you to hear something about this naked guy standing before the mother, because it's very, very beautiful. I mean, it Schütz. It's all equally gorgeous. And here it is. This is with the Schütz Academy, conducted by Howard Arman. Listen to this. It's beautiful. You'd never know how, disgusting and creepy and Freudian this really is. Listen to it. See, you can get away with anything in those days if you sing it so beautifully. So you've got 17th century funeral music. You've got stuff by Michael Praetorius and Johann Hermann Schein and lots of Schütz. That's basically what this is. And that's just lovely, right? Then we have Mozart's Requiem, which I don't like. I know a bunch of you want me to do a Mozart Requiem talk. I mean, I could do one. I don't like Mozart's Requiem. I really don't. I just think it's like little detached pieces that never add up to anything. And of course, I think it would have been totally different had he survived. But then I found out, the one thing that always bothered me about it was that stupid trombone solo in the tuba mirum, da ba 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 ba. I just think that is the most awful, unidiomatic, silly-sounding thing ever given to a trombone. And it turns out that wasn't Süssmayr. That was Mozart. So maybe it wouldn't have turned out better. I don't know. But here is the Mozart Requiem in the Süssmayr completion, performed by the Chamber Choir of Europe and the Süddeutsches Kammerorchester Pforzheim. Yes, Pforzheim, under some guy named Nicole Mott. There you go. And it's perfectly fine. I mean, I listened to it. I really did. I listened to all this stuff. So I and recently, because I was only in a profound Requiem mood after hearing the, Carensis Beethoven 7th and, some of these other things. So I actually took out a lot of this and played it. And it's really, really a fine set, even if it has the Mozart Requiem. Well, it's got to, right? Then we get, this is cool, the Cherubini, the Cherubini D minor Requiem, which is for male voices and orchestra. Now, of course, this is not the Markevich, but it's quite good. It's with Czech people, too. It's with the Czech Chamber Philharmonic under Douglas Bostock. We know him. He does all kinds of unusual repertoire, usually quite respectably. And then you get the actual Dvorak Requiem. And this is licensed from Naxos. This is the Antony Witt performance from Naxos, which is a knockout and which has a video all of its own if you want to go check it out, because it's just and the Dvorak Requiem, it's just a masterpiece. And one that's shamefully neglected. Shamefully, tragically neglected. So to get the Antony Witt version of the Dvorak Requiem in here is really a deal. It's really a deal. And then we get the Brahms German Requiem. You gotta have the German Requiem. All right, this one has Anna Tomova Sintov, before she was like really famous. And let's see, Gunter Leib, baritone. And this is with the Rundfunk. Oh my goodness. Rundfunk. That was a Freudian slip. Something Vereinigung and Rundfunkchor Berlin, the radio choir of Berlin and the Berlin Radio Symphony Orchestra under Helmut Koch. And it's really quite slow. It's a very German performance. It's slow, it's serious, it's good. I mean, it's good. You want a German Requiem in the context of a dozen or so other Requiems? You won't be sorry. It's all right. Let's see. Now this was a real little surprise. This is the Berlioz Requiem, Maurice Abravanel's recording, the old Vanguard recording with the Utah Symphony Orchestra and chorus. I like this Berlioz Requiem. It sounds, there's something very French sounding about it, even if it's Mormons in Utah, because it just has a certain manic leanness and rhythmic edge. It sounds Berlioz-like. It really does. And, the big moments come off really well. And the choir is obviously a little bit small, but you can hear the words. And it's really quite a remarkably exciting performance. I'm going to play a bit of the Lacrimosa, because that's the one, it's sort of my test movement to see if you could figure out what's going on, because it's got, a really crazy meter. I think it's like 12/8, but it's, and but the vocal line cuts across the rhythm, and it all sounds totally kinky and out of sync. Listen to how well they do this, how transparent and exciting this is. Listen to this. Fabulous, isn't it? It's just fabulous. I think it's really a performance worth reckoning with, even if the choir is, not necessarily the best. It sounds better too than so many other versions of the Berlioz Requiem. It's one of those pieces that like everyone screws up, but Abravanel doesn't, and it's worth having for that performance too. Just to hear totally fresh take on the piece. One that really, I think it will open your ears. I really do, to some of the things that you don't hear in many of the more famous recordings of it. So that was fun. Then we get, let's see, the Schumann Requiem. This is with the Das Neue Orchestra under Christoph Sparing. Sparing. This is a good performance. It's period instrument stuff, and it's really, really quite well done. And the Schumann Requiem is another incredible rarity. And of course, when you hear it, you realize immediately why. Okay. All right. It's not one of Schumann's better works, but to have it is really quite special and interesting. And you can make up your own mind whether it's junk or whether it's really good. The Verdi Requiem. Okay. No one is going to think this is one of the better Verdi Requiems. This is the old Giuseppe Patane version, but you do have the Leipzig Radio Choir, which is fantastic. I mean, they're just a great choir. And the Leipzig Radio Symphony Orchestra with 4 soloists who you've never heard of. Well, maybe one of them? Nah, probably not. Doesn't matter. It's not a bad Verdi Requiem. Again, good, solid professional performance. Is it going to win any awards? No. But if you're getting a box of 16 Requiems, death is not picky. Let's put it that way. And so there you go. That's the Verdi Requiem. And now we have, the Fauré Requiem and the Duruflé Requiem. Of course, you have to have both of them. They always come coupled. These are chamberish versions. The Fauré Requiem is with the Camerata Vocale Freiburg and the Camerata Freiburg under Winfried Toll. Yes, Winfried Toll. And the Duruflé, absolutely kind of like, I just had to hear this because it features some singers you never heard of, a cellist, an organist, and the chamber orchestra version. It's like strings and brass and organ and solo cello and mezzo, but not the full orchestra and not the just organ version and not the underwater version and not the version for kazoo choir, which I can play. But this just blows my mind. It's the choir of Leeds Cathedral, which sings quite well. They really do. But this just got me. The Skipton Building Society Camerata under Thomas Leach. I just had to hear the Skipton Building Society Camerata play the Duruflé Requiem. That was just an opportunity I could not pass up because either it was going to be really good or it was going to be a party record. You know what I mean? I mean, we know these things. We pros, right? No, seriously, you just look at the name. It was like the Grimethorpe Colliery Band, which is actually one of the great bands like in the world. But the name is so fabulous. But this one really got me, the Skipton Building Society Camerata. And here they are doing some of the Domine Jesu Christi. Listen to this. It's not a party record. It sounds damn fine. It's very well recorded, rather well sung. It really is well sung. I enjoyed this performance of the Duruflé Requiem very much. And I usually only like the big orchestra version because, of course, it has the big tam-tam wax and things like that. No, you don't miss it. They play really well. It's enthusiastic. It's lustily sung. It's a fun requiem. And that's what I want in this requiem box. I want to have a good time hearing all these people yak about death. Because if death can't be fun, what can be? That's really the question. So after Duruflé, we get another really, really interesting, wonderful record. This one features, again, the Camerata Vocale Freiburg, which is really it's just a good group. I mean, they sing very well. You get the Pizzetti Requiem, for a cappella choir, which is like 8 to 12 parts or something, 5 to 12 parts, lots of parts. And boy, is this a beautiful, beautiful work, the Pizzetti Requiem. And the Herbert Howells Requiem, which is a masterpiece. Absolutely. It's absolutely a masterpiece for a 5 to 8 part a cappella choir. And you get the Puccini Requiem, which is very Puccini, and it's only 5.5 minutes long. What could be better than that? And it's scored for violin and organ and choir. But really, the cool stuff is to have Pizzetti and Howells in very, very beautiful performances. So that's a real deal, you know? I mean, the Requiem jackpot is growing. Can you see? And then, well, the last 2 discs here, right? Yeah, last 2 discs. This is actually a wonderful pair of discs for fans of the conductor, the East German conductor Herbert Kegel, who in perfect Requiem fashion offed himself after the fall of the Berlin Wall or somewhere around then. He committed suicide. So he's the perfect guy to be conducting a Requiem. And you've got his War Requiem, his Britten War Requiem, which is not, I mean, you know, you've got Britten's Own, you've got all the British people doing it. There are lots of great War Requiems. Is this one of them? No. But it's a very good performance of the War Requiem. I mean, Kegel was a very, very solid musician and a real specialist at contemporary music. And so it's fun to have this. And it's really, you've got Theo Adam as the baritone, and, you know, you've got people who know what they're doing and what they're singing about. And again, you have the Leipzig Radio Choir, which is amazing, and the Dresdener Knaben, Kapelle Knaben from Dresden, and the Dresden Philharmonic under Herbert Kegel. It's great to have, just great to have. It's one of those, you know, finds, one of those performances that collectors really, really look for and cherish, and it's in the Requiem box. And then after that, we have some delicious little encores, fabulously chipper, perky encores. The first is Penderecki's Threnody for the Victims of Hiroshima. Now, that's something to get your pulse racing, isn't it? That's a delicious piece of avant-garde screeching Ralph. It's just amazing. And then, and this is wonderful, as the second encore, the most delicious little encore of all, something light and fluffy and lyrical, the Berg Violin Concerto. Yes, with Manfred Scherzer violin and the Dresden Philharmonic under Herbert Kegel, who's a wonderful conductor in that music. So, I mean, imagine 16 discs of Requiems, and if that isn't enough, the cherry on the sundae is the Berg Violin Concerto. Now, I ask you, what could be more fun than that? I mean, really, you will never believe that death can be this entertaining. So I recommend very strongly this Brilliant Classics Requiem box. I mean, the famous works, I know you've already got them. But for the selection of other things and at the price, you can afford to duplicate. And what the heck? You may find that you like them. There's some really cool stuff in here. So there you go, folks. You can keep on listening, even to the point of, well, you know, even till then. Keep on listening. Thank you, friends. Take care. Take really good care.